Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live with all the latest Manchester United news. So get involved in the chat in the comments. We're going to be talking, of course, about the big game against Sunderland this weekend. We're going to hear from the manager later on today. I think he's doing his presser this afternoon. Also, we'll be talking about Ruben Amorim's future. There's a few stories doing the rounds about just how secure his future is. It looks like he's got the full backing of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but that could change. So we'll be getting into all that. So make sure you let us know your thoughts on all those stories and more as well. Mick Holohan, Harry on the boat, Real Recognises Real, Wayne Davis, Chakoya Trot, Maurice Marshall, a full name Huggy, all in the chat. Good to see you wonderful people. Make sure you are smashing a like, as the kids say. Shall we talk then about Ruben Amorim's future? Because Laurie Whitwell, from Inside United fame, he's of course on this channel once every fortnight. He's going to be back in next week to give us the lowdown on what is going on with Manchester United Football Club. He was speaking, I think, on Talk of the Devils, where he does the podcast with Andy Mitten, with Ian Irving, with Carl Anker, of course, all of whom have been on this channel. All good stuff. He was saying about Amorim's future. He says Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the ultimate decision maker on this. He would take recommendations, you can see it on your screen, from Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada. The Glazers have a voice on this, but Ratcliffe is the one to decide on this, and he, I'm told, wants to actually give Amorim the full season. Now, the devil is in the details, as they say. He wants to give Amorim the full season. Well, I want to see United lift the title. Is it going to happen this season? No. So he wants to give him the full season. Doesn't mean he is going to give him the full season. Now, we will speak to Laurie about this fully when he's on the channel next week. But it does seem as though Ratcliffe, Wilcox, Barada are pretty much all in on Amorim. They want this to work. And you can understand why. Because that is the biggest decision they've had to make. Changing the manager is arguably the biggest decision you can make at a football club. And they got rid of Erik ten Hag. They got rid of Erik ten Hag quite early, really, because he just won the FA Cup. And was it November time? The following season, they got rid of him. Now, you might argue he finished 8th the season before. The results haven't been good enough. The sacking was almost in the post. But it was a big call to replace him so early in the season when I'm sure he would have argued there was lots of time to turn it around. And he was still, 4 points off the top 4, I think it was, when he got sacked. I know he was sort of lower down, but it was that early in the season. It was that tight that actually, back-to-back wins or winning 3 out of 4 could have elevated United right up the table. So he might look at it and go, okay, look, it wasn't as disastrous as some people are painting. So they made the decision to bring in Ruben Amorim. Now, Ruben Amorim himself, I think, wanted to wait until the summer. That wasn't really given as an option. We paid compensation to Sporting. We brought him in early doors. And his tenure has been, in terms of the results, terrible. There's no sugarcoating it. Now, I like Ruben Amorim. I think he's a good guy. He carries himself very well in press conferences. But you can't ignore the results have been shocking. Now, the sort of the mood or the noise from Ineos is that they back him, they like what he's trying to do, they understand what he's trying to do, and they're going to give him time. And this is why we're hearing now they want to give him to the end of the season. However, it's got to be said, if the results continue to underwhelm, and that's being nice, if Manchester United continue to struggle, if by, I don't even know, November, we're still in the bottom half of the table, is he still going to have that full backing? Are Ineos still going to be saying, is Sir Jim Ratcliffe still going to be saying, we'll give you to the end of the season? I don't know. I think there's limits. There's always limits when it comes to managers. There's always a time when the board, the owners, whoever that may be, go, look, this has run its course. Now, at Manchester United, you've got to remember, we have this sort of myth sometimes that's perpetrated that Manchester United are not a sacking club. We back managers. We don't sack managers. And it's just not true. It isn't. It wasn't true before Fergie. If you look at the history of Manchester United, there's only Fergie and Busby who have been at the club for a very long amount of time. Now, admittedly, those are two of the greatest, if not the two greatest managers of all time, who both spent multiple decades at the club and absolutely revolutionised not just Manchester United, but I would say football in general. So I get why a lot of people will pivot to Busby and Fergie and go, look, Fergie was here for 26 and a half years. Busby was here from 1945, 46 to the sort of the early 70s, I think it was, or late 60s, early 70s. So, look at that record. I get it. But when Busby left, I mean, was it Wilf McGuinness? Then Busby came back. Then you had the likes of Frank O'Farrell. You had Dave Sexton. You had Tommy Docherty. You had Ron Atkinson came in. Ron Atkinson spent quite a few years at the club, to be fair. Was it, 81 to 86, 5 years, I think it was. But then you've got after Atkinson, you had Fergie, obviously had, phenomenal amount of time, and rightly so. Post Fergie though, you look at that. Moyes lasted less than a season. Then you had Louis van Gaal, who lasted 2 seasons, gets sacked more or less the day he wins the FA Cup. Jose, what was he, 2 and a little bit of a season? Basically 2 seasons. Then you had Ole, again, 2 and a bit seasons. Ralph Ragnick was obviously just interim, but then Eric Ten Hag comes in, and what does he get? He gets just over 2 seasons. And now you're in Ruben Amorim, who's also under pressure. So Manchester United have got rid of managers since the club began, basically. And if you're not successful at a club the size of Manchester United, you're not going to be given years and years to work it out. Now, if Ruben Amorim was to give him the end of the season and then United decided to pull the plug, that still means he's done less than 2 seasons, which is about average post Sir Alex Ferguson. It's probably average on overall, post Busby, pre-Fergie as well. So it's not like, it's beyond the realms of possibility that wouldn't happen. Like I keep saying, I know I'm a broken record, but there's not much more I can say on it other than the results are going to dictate what happens with Ruben Amorim. If he keeps losing, he's going to lose his job. It's that simple. Now, if I'm Ruben Amorim, I'm looking at this, I'm going, right, you've got the Sunderland game. Sunderland at home. I know they're 5th. I know they're having a good run, but they've just been promoted. It's a winnable game. You don't get many more winnable games than a newly promoted side at home. That is as easy as they come. It just is. So you look at that, look, we can get a result here. There's no reason to believe we cannot get a win against Sunderland. Jesus wept. What is it coming to? You've then got Liverpool, Anfield. You've got a break, then you've got Liverpool, Anfield. Now, despite their run of form, and despite the fact they're reigning champions and all the rest of it, Liverpool aren't unbeatable. They lost to Galatasaray recently. They've had a few games where it's almost been smash and grab for them. It really has. I'd be looking at Ruben Amorim saying, look, if we can even get a draw at Anfield, people start maybe giving me a little bit of respect and maybe a little bit more, belief in what's going on. That could help us. They got a draw. Didn't we get a draw last time at Anfield 2-2? So it's not like we haven't done it before, obviously. Now, it's not easy. I'm not pretending it is. But that could go some way to getting Ruben Amorim a little bit more belief, yeah, from his players, from the fans, from the pundits. Because I don't criticise anyone now who's looking at Ruben Amorim and saying, I've had enough. I get it. It's difficult to defend that record, and I always say this, and I know I keep repeating myself, but again, we're in sort of Groundhog Day. When you talk about Ruben Amorim and you defend him, which I have done, I've done it pretty much since he arrived, a lot of what you're talking about is hypotheticals, what he can do, what he could do, what he will do, what he might do, what would have happened had this decision gone our way, or had that injury not happened. When people look at it and they don't like what they see with Ruben Amorim, they're using the evidence. They're going, look, Jay, look at the results. Look at the results that you've seen since he came in. Look at some of the football we're seeing. Look at some of the goals we're conceding. Look at the amount of goals we're not scoring, if that makes sense. So I get it. Let me know what you think. Harry on the boat, love this, says, Jesus Christ, we could go on a run here. 21 is coming. Adam Kenny says, if Liverpool had none of these injury time goals, they'd be bottom half of the table. Chris says, don't do this to yourself. Jay, I know I shouldn't. Akash K says, too many ifs and buts and maybes. Look, I get it. This is the problem you've got. That's all you can really hold on to if you're going to stick with Ruben Amorim and defend him is, if this happened, if that happened, maybe this could happen. Ryan Mean says, completely agree with the decision to keep Amorim for the full season. Don't ask for a rebuild and not have the patience to see one through. I get it. My only caveat with this, Joe Smith was arguing this yesterday off the bar. He was saying, look, I'd give him the full season. And I understood that. The only pushback I had was, is there a cut-off point where you go, look, Manchester United might even be in danger of relegation here. Now, you might laugh at that and go, look, Jay, shut up. United, we're too big to go down. We've got too many good players. The quality's, it's just too much. We can't get relegated. Maybe we were saying that in the 70s when we did get relegated. What was it, 5 years or 6 years, whatever, after we'd won the Champions League or the European Cup as it was then. Maybe if you look at the record since Ruben Amorim's come in and the points we've gained, that's relegation form. So why not, if it carries on and we're in Christmas and you're still near the relegation zone or you are near the relegation zone, would you then think, actually, we could be in some serious trouble here? Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. That's the only way I can see, even if the powers that be say, we're going to back you, we're going to give you to the end of the season. That might change if they look at it and around Christmas or whatever, the R word, the relegation word is there, where you go in, wow, that is an actual possibility. Let me know what you think. I'm being melodramatic. Joe James John says, without 10 out points and Bruno, we could have been relegated. Akash Cases, is Makola calling you again, Jay? No, it's my friend who's calling me. He's actually doing a charity boxing match. I'm going to share a link for that in a minute. Let's get into some of the other stories as well, because I might just end up clinically depressing myself if I keep talking about Ruben Amorim's future. Hang on a minute. I think we have got some... there's another Ruben Amorim story. Now, this is based on... I think it's in Sports Illustrated. This is based on an interview he gave to TNT. He sat down, didn't he, with Owen Hargreaves, and he spoke about the system. And there was obviously... Everyone's been questioning the system. People saying, is it not working? Should you change it? So he said, I'm always saying the same thing. This is going to evolve. We are going to change the system, but it's not a normal system. And sometimes you take longer to go from this system to another systems. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to coach the team the way I see football. On the back of that, there's a little sort of piece here as well, or a few sentences about what Matthijs de Ligt said after the Brentford game, Matthijs de Ligt argued that the individual performance of the players, himself included, is more to blame than the system. However, Amorim's insisting on shoehorning players which don't possess the natural qualities to thrive in that formation isn't going to help these underperforming individuals. And it says here, while Amorim continues to steadfastly stick to his 3-4-2-1, every manager knows exactly how United are going to play. Every manager, apart from Amorim, who is left routinely bemused by the displays of his players each weekend. The funny thing is that you need to have a team to understand not the outcome, but you already understand how the game will be if we are going to have control, the former Sporting coach explained. This is going to happen. Maybe we lose because of one transition or one set pieces, but the game is going to be like this. With my team at the moment, you never know. Look, United are a mess. You can blame the system, you can blame the players, you can blame the formation. The only positive I've got is it's still early days this season. People can forget that. We're still only in, October, barely in October. So it's not done yet. This season hasn't, we can't just give up on it. There's still a lot of football left to play. And that is the biggest positive that you can have as a Manchester United fan right now. That there's time, if you turn it around, to do something positive this season, whether that's win the FA Cup, whether that's getting into Europe. Yeah, why not? And even that, getting to Europe, United should be aiming to get into the Champions League. We really should. But obviously, I'd sound deluded if I said that right now with where we're at. But there's a lot of football left to play. We have to start winning football matches. I know I'm a broken record. Forgive me. There's a piece in the Daily Mail about missing leaders. Again, I think this comes from his interview that he's given with TNT. And it's talking about leaders and players and all the rest of it. And he says, we have a lot of players that were here for many years and we are struggling. So that is always on your mind. It's not just the leaders. We need leaders, but sometimes what I'm thinking is we miss some crazy guys, The guys, I think Cunha is a little bit like that. He's a guy that is a good guy, but he doesn't care who you are. He can play wherever and he will go with the ball. This kind of feeling, we need that. Harry Maguire was captain and played for the national team, but you can feel sometimes that when things are going wrong, we go down, no matter if it's Bruno or Harry, and that's in the past. We need to live in the future. Sometimes you look at the pitch when something is going really wrong and you see Brian with a different light because he came from a different environment. Then you look at Cunha and you feel that sometimes he's frustrated, but you can feel the frustrating is something like, give me the ball. So we miss that. We need to forget the past. We need sometimes that crazy guy. The world can be on fire, but I don't care. Sometimes it's not just leaders, it's the maverick guys. I think Cunha's got a bit of that in him. I do. And I want to see more of it. And I'm hoping we see it against Sunderland this weekend. I think Cunha's got that little bit of edge, that little bit of craziness, that little bit of devil-may-care attitude. You need that. You need players that aren't fazed when things are going wrong. And I think too often, when things start going wrong, players' heads drop at Manchester United. Joe spoke about it the other day. I think he spoke about it. He was in one of the podcasts or the preview, forgive me, I'm forgetting which one. Almost like a PTSD, where when we concede a goal, it's like United players sort of start reliving trauma and we go, oh my God, it's happening all over again. And then the game's almost done. We need to get past that. We need to work it out, and Ruben Amorim needs to fix it. I'm just going to whiz through a couple more stories. Michael Carrick's got a new job. There's a story here in Talk Sport. Carrick been sort of loosely linked with maybe coming back into Manchester United in some sort of capacity. Let's not forget he was caretaker manager, wasn't he? Post Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and pre Ralph Rangnick. I think his win rate is better than any manager we've had in it. Or not quite, but he's very good. And he's now a technical observer for UEFA. This is what TalkSport is saying amid a potential return to Manchester United. There's going to be loads of speculation, going to be loads of stories about anyone remotely connected to Manchester United, including Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It says here that he was considered. There's a story in the Mirror that says Manchester United chiefs reportedly gave thought to turning to Solskjaer before landing Ruben Amorim last year. So when we got rid of Eric Ten Hag, there was some discussion about bringing Ole in. We went Ruben Amorim. Now we need to see more from Ruben Amorim and his team. Otherwise, who knows, maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be back on the shortlist. One final one. Is this the worst VAR decision ever, right? I don't know if you saw this, and maybe I'm missing something here, but there was a game last night. Was it Celtic and was it Braga? I think it was. So Celtic playing in Europe. They lost, I think, 2-0. They were 1-0 down. They get an equaliser through Kelechi Iheanacho. Remember he used to play for City. I remember once I did a mix zone with Iheanacho. City put him up for a mix zone. And at the time, he might have improved. At the time, his English wasn't great. And I never understood it. It's not his fault. And his English was better than any other language I speak. He only speaks English. But it was very weird. Anyway, I digress. I can't understand why they didn't give this as a goal. They say that it touched his arm, but it didn't. And I'm missing something here. I've watched it a couple of times. I know you don't care. Who cares what Celtic doing? But it's just weird. I think it is a contender, unless I'm completely missing it, for the worst VAR decision I've ever seen. And also, they didn't even send the ref to the monitor. It's one of those where the VAR makes a decision for the referee. And it was terrible. I'm not a fan of VAR. I don't like it when I'm at a game. I don't like it when I'm not at a game. I just think it was terrible. Chris says, terrible decision, called handball when it didn't even touch him. Santa Notch says, football history would be completely different if this standard of VAR had always been around. I mean, it was terrible. Anyway, we're going to be back later on with the brew. Make sure, if you're not doing, you check out the link in the description for some merch, and it's in the chat as well. Yep, and also we've got Off the Bow, myself, Adam McCullough, Stephen Alson and Joe Smith. That's up on the channel. You've also got the preview for the game against Sunderland this weekend. Me and Joe previewing that one. Plus, don't forget, we'll be hearing from Ruben Amorim later on today. We'll find out what he's thinking ahead of that game against Sunderland. So make sure you're following us on all the socials. I'm Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.